I just want to find 11,780 votes.
The Fulton County Grand Jury investigation of Donald Trump.
What proves fact A, fact B, and fact C? If we can do that, I'm going to bring an indictment.
I'm Bill Rankin.
I'm Tamar Hallerman. Join us for Season 9 of Breakdown from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
Listen now, and please follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Today on CityCast Denver. With the holidays come delicious home-cooked holiday meals. And with delicious home-cooked holiday meals comes high grocery bills. And they may be getting even higher next year. Me and Bree are talking about those big changes for the king of groceries, the queen of soft serve, and all the other news of the week with a terrific first-time guest. Plus, a few stories you might have missed. Today is Friday, December 16th, 2022. I'm Paul Caroli, and this is CityCast Denver. Welcome back to CityCast Denver, the show about the city with one fewer Dairy Queen as of this week. That's right, Bree.
Which one?
The one on Leetsdale, where it turns into Parker, in that strip mall.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I'm also thinking of two Dairy Queens close to me that have gone out of business in the last 2 years. Not
You're
close to
kidding
me,
me.
but, well, there's the one, by Kokoro, on Colorado Boulevard.
Yes.
In the strip mall. So we used to go to Kokoro and then go to Dairy Queen after to get dessert. And now they moved the Dairy Queen over to the U Hills shopping center.
Oh, uh-huh.
And then the one by my house that used to be run by a group, it was like taken over by a group of ragtag teenagers that didn't wear uniforms and
Is that the South Colorado one?
The one I'm talking about by Kokoro, yes. But the one by my house was on Alameda, and it was literally teenagers ran it however they wanted. So sometimes they would take your order, sometimes they wouldn't.
Who's the Dairy Queen now?
It was so funny, but that's now become a banh mi spot. So.
Ooh, yeah, we were talking about that.
But I think, does this mean Dairy Queen's on its way out?
I hope not.
It's a great job for teenagers. Peyton's over here
all due
shaking her head.
respect, the teenagers, they're okay. They'll find another job.
It's a perfect teenage job.
I'm sad about the dilly bars and the dipped cone. That's where it's at.
Yeah.
As an adult. That's
Get
what
it
I've
double
learned.
dipped. That's my recommendation.
You can do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Even more pissed now that it's going out of business.
There's still one by your house. It's on Colorado Boulevard.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So Bree's here, and then we also have a terrific guest today. She's the new star reporter for the Denver Post. We had to have her on the roundup this week because her name was on every story I wanted to talk about. Megan Ululani Boyanton is here. Megan, welcome.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me, even though you're making me pretty hungry right now.
How do you feel about DQ? What are your thoughts?
Oh, I have fond childhood memories of DQ, so I'm totally, actually the double dip cone, that was my order. Yeah. So
which flavor?
It's the way to go.
Which flavor?
Vanilla with the chocolate dip, of course.
Classic.
My wife is like cherry or butterscotch. She likes, I don't know, but anything other than chocolate for me is why are we here? This is Dairy Queen.
I've never seen anyone order those.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
She's keeping the
her
flavor
whole family.
Oh, no.
They all love it.
Peyton is in the corner freaking out that she can't say anything.
Strong opinions.
All right, so we should get into our main story. The holidays are here, and the cost of groceries is going up. It's been going up all year, and things are changing because there's two big stories this week, both of which you reported on, Megan. We wanted to start with this one. Attorney General Phil Weiser will be leading a multi-state investigation into the proposed $25 billion merger of Kroger, which owns King Soopers, and Albertsons, which owns Safeway. These are two national chains with a lot of local brands. Those are the two here. They're two of Denver's biggest grocery store chains. We all have, personal relationships with our grocery stores. But let's start with the whole why of this. Megan, why is Weiser looking into this?
Sure. So this all really started, news of the merger broke back in October. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that my colleague Judith Collar, who's also a business reporter, and myself, we've really gone from the business beat to the merger beat because that's definitely what we're going to be covering up until the deal closes, which is expected to happen in early 2024.
But it takes that long?
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's apparently a lot of hoops to jump through, and there's been a lot of opposition so far to the merger. So Kroger and Albertsons announced this back in October. It wasn't a shock that Albertsons was up for sale, but it was a shock that they landed on Kroger to do the deal with, at least according to grocery industry experts that I've spoken with. And so it's almost for about $25 billion. Both of the boards agreed on it unanimously. And since then, it's kind of just caused, like, I'd say, like, a ton of discourse between, like, Colorado officials, federal officials, union representatives, employees, and consumers are all kind of talking about how is this going to impact us. And especially in Colorado, like you said, where King Soopers is kind of our largest retailer. And, you know, you see a Safeway on almost every block. It's raising a lot of questions as to what, you know, grocery shopping is going to look like when this merger closes.
Mm-hmm. Bree, are you worried about it?
I mean, it doesn't seem great. It doesn't seem great that our two largest grocery retailers may become one, because that generally eliminates competition in some ways, right? And I think that tends to not favor or benefit employees and consumers. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how it will impact my day-to-day. I'm a King Soopers guy, so.
Yeah, it's hard to see why a merger like this would have an effect like that. I think that part is really complicated and depends on, like you said, it's going to take a long time. Like, we don't know the future of the economy of this business. But a lot of people are worried about it. And there were some Senate subcommittee hearings on this. And Megan, I know you came from D.C. Maybe you'll recognize the voice in this hearing. But this is CEO of Kroger, Rodney McMullen, testifying at a subcommittee hearing. Here it is.
Let me ask you this, Mr. McMullen. And I'm sure Senator Durbin wants to ask questions here, so I'll hand it over here in just a second. But you have, as I think you testified earlier, you conducted a stock buyback recently of, I think, about $1 billion. Why not give that money, pass that money along to your associates, as you say, in the form of higher wages?
Yeah, as I shared earlier, we've invested an incremental $1.2 billion in associate wages over the last 4 years.
Could have been $2 billion if you hadn't have done the stock buybacks.
We also spent over $1 billion, right at $1 billion, improving pension benefits as well. And it's really balancing all the constituents when you look at customers, associates, communities, and shareholders. Back to your earlier comments, sir.
Let me guess. Was that Senator Tom Cotton or Senator Josh Hawley?
Hawley.
Yeah.
Hawley.
So
Republican Senator Josh Hawley.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's what's really interesting is that, so I reported on that Senate subcommittee hearing, and that was back in November. So they actually jumped on this pretty quickly. And yeah, both of the CEOs were there, and they were kind of getting it from both sides, from both Republicans and Democrats. But Hawley and a few of the other Republicans, it seemed like a lot of their grievances kind of came from maybe some of the DEI policies that both of the stores have put into place. And
really?
Yeah, they had brought up a lawsuit that was happening because I think it was in Arkansas where some employees felt that their religion was being suppressed, that they're Christian, and they had to wear, like, I guess, a uniform that had a rainbow on it. I don't know. So that's where the Republican grievances came from. The Democratic grievances came from, you know, the fact that they want to keep union jobs. They were kind of more...
Like reality. Like real world stuff.
Not uniform.
Like pins.
Yeah.
Not like the villain of Office Space.
Yeah.
We need to talk about your flare.
Really? I have 15 pieces on.
Well, okay, 15 is the minimum. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Now, you know, it's up to you whether or not you want to just do the bare minimum or, well, like Brian, for example, has 37 pieces of flare on today, okay? A terrific smile.
Okay, so you want me to wear more?
Yeah,
pieces of flare.
There have been, I think, like, so many questions brought up from so many different parts of, different players in this. Like, people are just worried, it seems, about, one, loss of jobs, two, the creation of this potentially gigantic grocery monopoly, three, the closure of stores, four, the creation of food deserts, five...
Because there might be store closures.
Exactly. Well, and so McMullen actually said in that hearing that he wouldn't be closing stores and he wouldn't be laying off frontline associates. And that applies to store workers, warehouse workers, plant workers, etc. But he did say that divestiture was on the table and that he would work with the Federal Trade Commission about that. And after looking...
What does that mean? What is divestiture?
So when you're divesting something, it means that you're essentially selling a store to a competitor.
Oh, so we might see like a Safeway turn into like a Sprouts?
Potentially. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
But so there's like a lot of complications with that too, because I guess in the past, and that's one of the reasons why AG Phil Weiser is kind of leading this multi-state investigation, is that he's kind of noted some of these concerns, and so he's looking into it. It seems like over the next year, he's going to do a tour statewide and kind of talk to consumers on the ground and look into if this merger is illegal and if it's going to impact the consumer negatively. But something that's interesting is there's kind of like a side story happening at the same time, and that's called there's a $4 billion special dividend, and that's essentially Albertsons right now is considering paying out its shareholders $4 billion, and the AGs are taking action. Kind of the AG in Washington has led this so far, but Weiser has kind of lended his support in it to try and block this, because if Albertsons pays out this $4 billion, that means that it could deepen its debt. It would like lower its cash reserves. And that means that any potential remedies that state and federal regulators give to these corporations about the merger, that essentially it wouldn't have the capital to kind of work with government officials in the way that they would need it to. Does that make sense? It's all very...
It doesn't, but I'm also like... It's just a struggle to see $4 billion and then think about what we heard from frontline workers during the strike. Right?
That's
it's
what
like
I
folks are
understand.
asking for what feels like so little. And in job security, and the thing that really struck me about what you just said, Megan, was this worry about food deserts. And food deserts are created by corporations like pulling out of communities because they're quote low performing stores. So even if your grocery store is busy because it's the neighborhood grocery store, if it's not making enough money for a large corporation, they might just close it. Paul, I'm thinking about your neighborhood. Do you shop at the King Soopers on Leedsdale?
Yes.
So I would say I don't think they've done a huge remodel of that store the way they've done other stores, right?
No, it's still in the...
It's still in the
I think
90s.
I think, well, I wouldn't know, but it seems like it.
So I went there a lot as a kid, but the one I went to was the one that's your gym now that's farther down on Monaco. What if they close that store?
I would be furious.
You know what I'm saying?
Although we have been exploring other chains since the strike.
Okay.
Earlier in the year, we've been going to like Save-A-Lot, the worker-owned one. Not good enough produce.
Yeah.
Costco, which I was really excited about, but now kind of don't like it all. Sorry, Costco lovers. I'm not going to say freaks.
I was like, we don't need to have a Costco fight on the show.
We can save that for later, too.
But you're two people in a household. Buying produce at Costco doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense. We've tried Arash, this Middle Eastern grocery on Parker. Incredible. Produce is great. We can't really get everything, but like, I don't know. I like that kind of food.
But the can't really get everything thing is what I'm thinking about. Because we were talking about this yesterday. Sprouts is great, but like if you want to buy toilet paper, you don't have very many options. If you need to pick up a prescription, that doesn't happen there. If you need to get a money order, that doesn't happen there. Grocery stores,
pharmacies,
they just serve such bigger functions in communities, these larger stores. And so when you close a grocery store, you're not just losing the food component, you're losing a lot of people's lifelines for other things. A lot of people cash their checks at the grocery store. And these are all the things I think about when we say, oh, they might just close a store in the middle of a neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, and then you think about how it's going to impact the surrounding community too, because you think about, where a Safeway or a King Soopers is located, oftentimes there's a laundromat nearby, or maybe, there's like a nail salon, a liquor store. And so if that store closes, what I've heard
it's an anchor store.
What I've heard some people who are against the merger say is it's going to impact not just that store and not just the people who work at that store, but the surrounding community, because they're going to lose customers who usually, I'm at King Soopers, let me just pop by and, drop off some clothes or something at the laundromat. Right. And in talking about food deserts too, for us, it's an inconvenience that it's like, if a store closes, right, I'm gonna have to drive further. But you really think about how this would impact low-income residents of Denver and other places where it's like, okay, what if I don't have a car? And now I have to walk.
5 miles is far.
Denver's not known for its walkability either.
Right.
Or you think about rural communities where it's like, maybe they had a Safeway and a King Soopers and now they're just down to one. Yeah. And so it's going to eliminate competition is what a lot of these advocates are arguing. And
for the workers too, I saw that of the major chains, of the top 5 chains, only Safeway and King Soopers have unionized labor forces. So if you want to work for a union shop, you're only going to have one option.
Yeah.
That's like pretty clearly bad for competition for the workers.
Right. And so
that's going to drive wages
McMullen,
down.
who would be the CEO of the combined company, he had kind of in the hearing argued that, he comes from a union household, that this would actually create the largest union retailer in the country, which is true. And they would be competing against Walmart,
which is
Target.
non-union. Yes.
Right. But so he's kind of refuting a lot of the points that different union reps and government officials are saying. And he's saying that this would actually create a boost in wages for associates.
Really?
Yeah. And that it would.
Well, he's saying that because they'll be more profitable, right? This is his like dream world as a CEO, though. Don't you think?
I mean, he definitely wants this merger to go through, I think.
There'll be the super grocery store, right? There will be the one.
I don't know. You know what I keep coming back to is the communities. Like, let's talk more about the communities, because he says it's going to benefit communities in that quote from earlier, McMullen did. Megan, how is it going to benefit communities? What does that mean?
So there are so many moving parts to this. Essentially, they want to consolidate the supply chain and take both of their stores and move it into one. And by doing that, that means that they'd be able to lower prices. But there are so many experts that I've talked to who see both sides, and I've heard so many different perspectives from both sides. I think that a point too that we haven't thought about is something that the Rocky Mountain Farmers Union has been saying, which is looking at, well, how is this going to impact our farmers too? Because that's a population that we don't normally think about. But I used to do ag reporting in DC, actually. So it was funny that this has kind of dragged me back into my ag reporting roots. But you think about how farmers will go to different stores and, you kind of leverage these stores to try and get,
better prices.
Exactly.
For your eggs.
And suddenly, eggs.
We'll talk about that later.
Absolutely. Preview. But you go to these stores, you try and leverage them for better prices. Suddenly, if you're only left with one, well, then
you
that
don't
impacts,
have that leverage.
Exactly. So you have kind of a lack of competition there is what a lot of people are worried about. So there's that from the farmers' end. Again, consumers right now, we're already worried about inflation. We're worried about this potentially looming recession.
I mean, this is what it looks like, right? This is contraction. Like they would be closing stores because they are not profitable. And
That's
they're not
what I'm
profitable
saying
because
is
they're not doing enough business. They're not serving enough people. They're not
compared to other stores. They are serving the community. Maybe your community is not that big, so you're not as profitable. That's the really tough part about grocery stores. I worked when I worked in urban planning, I worked on the Colorado Fresh Food Financing Fund, and basically we helped find grant funding for small grocers mostly in rural areas, but in some urban areas, to try to supplement what they couldn't. The margins were so slim. They were trying to serve their community a lot of times because the Walmart had closed. And that was the grocery store, or the King Soopers, or the Sprout, or whatever had closed. They're trying their best. So our community's already struggling with this issue of a lack of food access, and this merger doesn't seem like it's going to make that any better, and I think it's going to make it worse.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of already talking about farmers, and we teased it a minute ago when I brought up the eggs situation. This is another story you wrote this week, Megan. What's the deal with eggs?
Yeah. So actually, and this was funny, I just saw it in a random press release at the bottom of my email from, I think it was the Colorado Department of Agriculture, that was like, oh, hey, in 2023, we're going cage-free. And I was like, is nobody talking about this? And I asked my editor, and he was like, yeah, let's run with that. Let's do that. So I started looking into it, and it turns out that in 2020, the state legislature passed this law where as of January 1st, 2023, they were going to start this transition in the state to cage-free. And so that means that on January 1st, actually, businesses, including grocery stores, cannot sell caged eggs anymore. And farmers have to start transitioning from, if they are doing the caged approach, to cage-free. And they have about 2 years. So they've got until January 1st, 2025 to truly transition over. So it's not like anybody should expect fines coming in February. Same with the stores, because they understand that they have to kind of, upgrade their supply chains. But yeah, so that's something that consumers can expect. And so on one hand, consumers can rest easy knowing that their choices, some would argue, come from more ethically sourced hens. On the other hand, though, it does come with a price tag. And at least one farmer that I talked to in Montrose said that could be $1 more expensive, $2 more expensive. And after I went to King Soopers probably a couple of weeks ago, eggs are already between $3 at the least expensive and $8 at the most expensive. So y'all get ready.
Bree, you ready?
I mean, The thing that I struggle with here is that it feels almost like at this point in time, we have to force ourselves as consumers to either be animal welfare advocates or be able to afford our groceries. And that's what I don't like about it. Is like, on one hand, I, of course, want to support more humane treatment of animals. But if I'm a family of 5 and I have to pay $2 more now for eggs, that's a really tough call. And so, I mean, it's going to be instituted no matter what. It just feels like I don't know if this was the right way to go about it.
Yeah, I'm torn on this one because I'm with you, Bree, on choice. Like, as a longtime vegetarian, I appreciate having choices in the grocery store. But I don't like thinking about people who are spending more on groceries.
Right.
It's already too expensive.
Groceries are so expensive right now. Like, I bought a half gallon of milk and it was like $6. I was like, this is insane. Eggs are kind of one of those universal proteins. Yeah. They cross cultures. Almost everyone eats eggs. So I don't know. It's not as easy as just being like, well, just go to rice and beans then, you know, like, I don't know. It's a struggle. But at the same time, I think that we need to update how we treat animals at the same time. And I don't like that consumers have to bear the burden of that because this is what industrial farming has brought us.
Yeah. Megan, tell us more about industry. How does industry feel about this?
Yeah, so, the livestock industry is pretty torn, it seems. There's been a lot of mixed reviews on it. So Rocky Mountain Farmers Union is for it. Colorado Farm Bureau is against it because they wanted this to be more of a voluntary, consumer-driven transition than something that was state-mandated, kind of citing the expenses that it's going to cost both consumers and farmers who have to kind of upgrade their farms as a result. Colorado Egg Producers is an association that's probably been most active in this sphere. The executive director who I talked to declined to say what their stance was on it, just saying, it's a state law and that they've worked pretty heavily with the Colorado Department of Agriculture to try and make sure this transition keeps the farmers in mind. But yeah, he was pretty adamant that the caged approach gets vilified and that, it is the most economical way to produce eggs. But the Montrose farmer that I talked to, who does pasture-raised eggs, he was of the opinion that, it's the least humane way because these are chickens that are kind of born in a barn, live their lives in a barn, and stay in a cage.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this might be helpful for your listeners too, because for me, when I started this story, I was kind of like, what do all these labels mean anyway?
Sure.
Like when you're standing in front of the egg aisle and you're like, what is the best choice for me and my wallet and also, like my moral obligations. And so the way that this farmer broke it down for me was that caged, it's the most common way. They've been doing this since probably like the 1930s and 1940s. The next one up is cage-free, and that's when they're no longer in these cages, but they are still living inside of a barn. They get a little bit more space, but not that much more. The next one up from that is free range, and that's when they do get a little bit of outdoor access, but it can be limited. And then after that is pasture raised. And that one's definitely the most expensive because you need to have, I think, a certain amount of land acreage for every hen. And that's what this guy does, this farmer I talked to in Montrose.
Yeah, that's the kind I eat. But I can afford it. It's expensive. Right. $8 for 12 eggs.
Yeah.
That's a lot. But I buy Vital Farms and you can go on a website and see the farm and I don't know how realistic it really is.
That has the little pamphlet in it.
Yeah, it comes with a meet your chicken.
Yeah, and it's this is Harmonious Helen. Yeah. And you're like, oh my God.
Yeah,
look how happy she is.
Totally. And I don't know, am I just buying into this PR thing or I don't know. I mean,
they
there's
do it very well.
All right, well, we'll see what happens with eggs in the new year and we'll take a quick break and be back with something else.
This episode is brought to you by the How to Buy a Home podcast. Because for the first time in 5 years, there's a house in my neighborhood for sale for $300,000. That's nuts. And that's just a sneak preview of 2023, which could be the year of the first-time home buyer. A lot of people are predicting a recession, and that could mean buyers have more power, less cutthroat competition, and more homes on the market that could get more affordable. If you haven't listened to the How to Buy a Home podcast, now is the perfect time. Host David Sidoni is an industry expert who has helped thousands of people just like you all over North America buy their first homes. Since 2005, David has been the undisputed first-time homebuyer authority. His How to Buy a Home podcast has helped so many listeners close on houses they thought were impossible, even as things went nuts in the past couple of years. Start planning this holiday season at howtobuyahome.com and make this the last year you rent. Find How to Buy a Home on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right, we're back. We talked about a story that everyone's feeling, the cost of groceries going up. And now we're going to talk about 3 stories that we may have missed. So we're just going to each talk about something that's overlooked or not gotten enough attention this week. Who wants to start? Bree, Megan?
I can start.
Yeah,
Let's
go
do
for
it.
it.
Go for it.
So I had seen a couple of days ago, the Washington Post had written a story about how women's pain can often be minimized by doctors. And that's from everything from PCOS to heart disease to IUD insertion. And that's something that I've actually been wanting to do a story about for a while, is the fact that women aren't offered anesthesia normally, or even pain meds when it comes to getting your IUD inserted, and yet they pierce your cervix when it happens. And so many women are in so much pain when it happens, and they're kind of just told to like, okay, go walk it off. Whereas men get, anesthesia for vasectomies, which I would argue are about the same pain level. I thought that it had like a really good Twitter discourse going from a lot of women who kind of weighed in and were like, yes, this is what we've been talking about.
I just had this exact experience. I just had an IUD inserted for the first time in my life, and I didn't want to do it, but my doctor was like, it's really the best option for you. And they gave me a Xanax to relax. Before.
How'd that go?
It didn't make any difference whatsoever. But I know I've long been on this train too. I think we don't talk enough about concerns around birth control, whether it's the pain level of things or the effects of them. There just has not been enough studies and work done on I've been through this crazy process in the last couple of years to have a kid, and I learned so much about what I hadn't been told by doctors over the last 20 years of having my period.
It's like you have to really be your own health advocate.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw that conversation you were having, and I think it's totally why not? Like, why can't we just be?
I've seen that a lot of women kind of have to demand it, or like for me, I was, you kind of trust your doctors.
Yeah.
And but yeah, and I like to think, that I have a pretty high pain tolerance. I think most women do, since we give birth. But that was the most painful experience of my life. And so now I kind of try and, because I want more women to get the IUD, right? Because that's, for me, that's 7 years of not having to worry.
Yep. It's pretty awesome.
And so it's well worth it. But for the 5-10 minutes of excruciating pain, it's really hard to sell your girlfriends on, hey, this is a great investment when, you have this kind of huge hurdle of actual physical pain.
Yeah, I agree.
Paul, any thoughts? Let's get the man's perspective.
I feel like you two have said it all. This reflects my view of the world.
He's smart.
I have nothing to add. But let's keep it moving. Bree, what do you got? What's your overlooked story of the week?
Westward ran this story. Certain Denver parks warn adults without children to stay away, from Thomas Mitchell. And
okay.
There were these signs put up at a couple parks, Governor's Park and Sonny Lawson Park, to let people know that you must be with a child at all times if you're going to be in the park, which I was like, At first they're like, oh, it's to keep children safe. I'm like, yeah, sure. No. This is, again, the city is working hard to privatize our public space. Of course, the hysteria that we get with this story is needles. We found needles. Okay, fair. I don't love finding needles anywhere either. Harm Reduction Action Center is down the street from Governor's Park. The city could partner with them tomorrow to fix this problem, and they refuse to do that. There's also a lot of profiling that's going to happen here. And Parks and Rec Deputy Manager Scott Gilmore sort of says that straight out, that like, well, we can't really enforce it, but if you look like you're on a date or you're swinging on a swing, these were the examples he gave, we probably won't bother you. But if you look like you're doing illicit activity, we'll ask you to leave the park. So we're profiling people. We're profiling who can use public space. And I'm just, It's like deja vu. This happened last year with Civic Center. I'm just tired of it. It's our city not dealing with real problems by putting up signs, which, by the way, he even says in the article, are not enforceable legally.
I was just going to ask how do they plan to enforce that?
It is legally not enforceable.
Okay.
So
this is such a Denver problem, this like putting up fences. Although I visited LA and they have the same issue because we visited like Echo Lake and it was just like a beautiful park with giant fences around it. Like, why would we do this? This is ruining this for
public
everybody.
Space. We're privatizing public space.
But I think that, I mean, I'll just cut to the chase. Like, the mayor is choosing this approach. We're going to have a new mayor soon. They're going to be able to change it. We want to talk about that. How do we change it? What are the other approaches? I'm going to put an open call out to all mayoral candidates. If you want to call in, we will play your message if you're running for mayor.
And you have
how about that? Is that okay?
What are we asking them?
What are you going to do about the camping ban?
Okay. Because I agree. I think this is an extension of the camping ban.
Yes.
Parks and Rec says, well, the Children's Museum has a similar policy. It's the Children's Museum.
Yes.
It is a museum for children. You are talking about public parks.
Yes. So mayoral candidates, this is a guarantee. We'll play your voicemail if you leave it with us, your name, your neighborhood, your campaign website, and you might hear it. No, you will hear it on the show.
Okay.
I can't wait for that episode.
Call in 720-500-5418, 720-500-5418.
Megan, you've lived in a lot of different places.
Yes.
How do you feel this is tackled, or how have you seen cities deal with this in other places?
Deal with the not having adults in parks, or
I mean, it is a broad question, I guess. I mean, I'm inferring from this story that this is really about keeping our unhoused population out of parks. I don't know if that's a thing that they do in other cities.
I've noticed that every place that I've lived kind of has a different way, because I've lived in New Orleans, Phoenix, Washington, D.C., and now Denver. I mean, because I think about how in DC they put up those spikes, and it's just like, oh my God.
Hostile architecture. Yeah.
We have that too.
Yeah, and in New Orleans, there's definitely like, there's a lot of parks that people experiencing homelessness live in. I don't feel like their policies are super stringent around homelessness. Yeah, but every city has a different approach, and to be honest, I don't feel like I've seen a city that has tackled it like correctly.
Humanely.
Exactly.
It's an America problem.
Yeah.
It's an America problem. American
Honestly.
cities. We'll keep talking about this, but I have some good
plenty of
news.
episodes.
I have some good news. Mine is, here's the lead from the New York Times, Kenneth Chang. Scientists studying fusion energy at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in California announced on Tuesday that they had crossed a long-awaited milestone in reproducing the power of the sun in a laboratory. Nuclear fusion is here.
Oh.
It's a huge
such a Paul story.
breakthrough that's overlooked. It's energy. It's the answer. It's the future. Not for a long time. But it's like, for the first time, that they used this previously theoretical idea to create energy in a lab from like nothing but molecules. You know, it's just, if they get the technology to a point where you could power cars with this, think of how it could change our cities.
Tell me what it is. I don't understand.
I cannot. I have told you every detail I know. Any more molecular than that, even probably I've gone too far already. But it's here, and it's so cool. Neither of you were excited by this.
I don't know what it is. I don't understand.
Well, and I feel like my first response was, because yes, it's incredibly, I think that's so cool actually. And it's so beyond my realm of expertise that I'm really blown away by it. But at a certain point, this is kind of how I feel with the internet. I'm just kind of like, I feel like humans need to chill for a second, because I feel like I mean, anything nuclear, I don't know, in the hands of humans, I'm just like, let's get it away. I don't know if we're in a space right now in 2022 to handle anything more. Elon Musk can barely handle Twitter. So,
That's true. Bree?
I don't know what it is.
Don't know what it is. Well, all of us can learn more about nuclear fusion. I'll make sure to post a link to that and all the other stories that you maybe overlooked. Okay, let's leave it there. We got a couple more things for you today. Bree, do you want to set up this next special something we got?
Well, Paul, our people, Coloradans, our people, love to talk about weather. And I thought why don't we call our favorite meteorologist and have him give us the weather report for this weekend?
I love it.
So here's Andy Stein.
What's up, weather fam? Rain or shine, I'm Andy Stein here with CityCast Denver weather. I know, I'm excited about that too. Hey, y'all, we have a great forecast coming up. It's been a little cloudy lately. It's been pretty chilly lately, but you know what? We're going to transition and see a lot of sunshine this weekend. Highs are still going to be pretty cold on Friday, only a couple of degrees above freezing at best, but Saturday and Sunday we'll be back to around normal in the low to mid 40s. Plenty of sunshine, clear skies overnight, falling down into the teens, which is again about normal for this time of the year. So overall, really just a pleasant weekend coming up, and I think we all deserve some of this Colorado sunshine that's coming. Y'all enjoy it.
Peyton, before we get started, what's your Dairy Queen hot take?
I know. I was freaking out over there.
Oh,
First
I'm ready.
of all, I think the world needs less Dairy Queens. That's my hot take. There's just so many good, like, independently owned ice cream stores all around Denver and everywhere else. We don't need DQ.
She's making
points. We just don't. At all. Ever. What? They're not necessary.
Clearly you haven't tried their food options.
We
Grill
don't,
and chill, Peyton.
We don't need DQ. But I will say, when I used to go to DQ, the dipped cone was my go-to.
Exactly.
And I was a cherry girl. So,
Ooh.
Cherries.
You guys are sustaining that
Cherry.
flavor.
Interesting.
Yeah, me. I've never did anything else. Just
That's
the
a hot
cherry.
take.
Really good. Those are my DQ hot takes that I was freaking out about over there.
No, you were such a DQ hater. Okay.
Yeah, we don't need DQ in the world, guys.
We do support local, though. I
Yeah,
like that.
and we have
Agreed.
like really good ice cream options, but that's a conversation for another
Sometimes
time.
we want to eat garbage, you know?
Bonnie
I
Bray
mean-
ice cream, though, shout out.
Yeah.
Licks.
Okay. All right, on to the weekend events, Paul.
Yes, it's time for the official CityCast Denver maybe for your weekend, as in maybe you'll see us there, because as usual, there are so many cool things happening in Denver this weekend, and we have opinions. Peyton Garcia rounds up her best bets in our newsletter, Hey Denver, every week, and she's here to give us her top picks. Peyton?
Sure. Okay. So, first event, Bazaar Navideño. This is happening tonight from 4 to 7 p.m., and it's free to attend. It is happening at Convivo Cafe. Have you guys heard of this place?
No.
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
What's up?
It's a new cafe. It's a Guatemalan cafe. And it's, I went there because there's a Lakewood nonprofit that works with rural indigenous Guatemalan women.
Yep.
And they had like a party there essentially that was showing some of the women's artwork that they do and they sell. So anyway, yes, been there.
Cool.
It looks like a gem.
Super cool. Yeah, owned by immigrant women, Guatemalan inspired. It's a bilingual cafe. They like focus a lot on that Guatemalan culture. So it just sounds really cool. And they're brand new, and they're hosting a Christmas market featuring Northside businesses and vendors. And there'll be like Latin American music and Latin American street food. So it just sounds like a really fun time to support a really cool new business.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty
Okay.
good. I'm interested in that. What's number 2?
All right, number 2, the Globeville Block Party.
Ooh.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's taking place at 3 separate venues in the Globeville neighborhood, all on 45th Avenue. So there's going to be like a big tent
Is that where
outside.
Fort Greene is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's going to be a big tent where they're going to have like live music. There's also going to be a food and clothing drive happening, so you can, bring stuff to donate. And then the 2 other venues that they're collaborating with are Birdseed Collective and Fort Greene.
Cool.
And those 2 businesses will be hosting activities and events like an Aztec dance ceremony, yoga classes, art workshops. So again, kind of a good cause. Bring some food and
I
clothing
love
to
it.
donate.
And this is outdoors?
Some of it's outdoors. If you go to the tent, I believe that's all outdoors.
And then Globeville Rec Center, it's like
Yes.
huge.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
probably
Okay.
where they'll do the Aztec dance. They usually do it inside in the gym.
Yeah. So sounds fun. Good day to hang out in Globeville if you don't, spend much time up that way.
Not bad. Not bad. What's number 3?
All right. Number 3, happening tomorrow from 1 to 9 p.m., also free, is West Colfax Cares. So this is a day-long initiative. A bunch of the businesses along West Colfax participate, and what they're doing is offering specials to help raise money for kids experiencing homelessness in Denver. So participating businesses include like Little Man Ice Cream.
Cool.
A good place to go. That's not DQ. Whole Soul Blend Bar and Lake Steam Bathhouse. So they're offering specials.
Oh, nice.
To help raise that money. Some of them are doing things where if you bring, it's also a winter clothes drive for kids experiencing homelessness. So if you bring clothes to donate, you can get whatever, ice cream or something.
Fun.
So yeah, another kind of way to give back this season.
Another great spot. Similar event.
Yeah,
these
are like
those two different
neighborhoods
strips.
too. Wherever you want to hang this weekend.
Yeah, take your pick.
What's number 4?
And number 4, lastly, this Sunday from noon to 3 p.m. is your final chance to experience a holiday tour at the governor's residence at Betcher Mansion in Cap Hill.
Okay.
They have not done this since 2019, and they've done it for a few different weekends in December, and this is the last chance. So you go, and it's free, and you go in, and each room on the main floor is uniquely decorated. It was kind of interesting. They have like old Christmas decorations from like way back when,
that
old
sounds
governors
incredible.
and stuff.
I just wrote a story on this.
Did you?
Actually. Yeah, I got to tour it.
Yeah, tell us.
That's the best part.
It's exactly what Peyton was saying. So each room has a different theme, and so some of them, it's like they'll have like one of them was like kind of 1950s vintage themed, and so they borrowed like a Stafford's Christmas tree. It's like a tinsel tree from the 1950s, which apparently are very expensive to get now, but somebody had got it like right after they got married as like a splurge. So they let them borrow it, and they have that whole room decked out with kind of like 50s era decorations. And then they also have like a 1920s themed tree. And then they've got like the huge tree that has like, it's dedicated to Gold Star families and military members who have passed in the line of duty. But it's gorgeous. They even have a Hanukkah room since since
I was gonna say that.
Polis is Jewish and his husband. So they have a menorah room, and that was really I liked seeing that. So it was gorgeous. Anytime that I've been able to go, and I've been able to go twice now for some stories, it's a gorgeous place.
I'm so sold on that one. You're gonna have to tear me away from that one with my fingers clawed in the ground.
I'm a Globeville gal myself.
Ooh, I was leaning for the top 2.
I was thinking Convivo Cafe. Wow, this is...
Convivo Cafe was yours, Peyton?
Yeah,
okay.
We're all pretty separated this week.
Oh, I do like that bar in Globeville. Fort Green's cool.
Yeah, Fort Green is really cool.
What were you there?
The Aztec dance ceremony.
Oh, it's so
awesome.
That's
where
to
you had
witness. It's really beautiful.
And that's for number 2 for the Globeville option.
Block party. Mm-hmm.
All right. I guess we could pick Globeville.
The Globeville block party.
I'm fine with that. They all sound fun to me.
They really do.
Cool that the governor's mansion's doing that. That's
first time since 2019.
Yeah.
That's neat. But find us in Globeville, maybe. There you have it, the official CityCast Denver maybe for your weekend, but there's way more where that came from. Peyton's got plenty more recommendations in our newsletter, Hey Denver, which you can subscribe to right now by texting Denver to 66866. I forgot something. We're doing something next week that listeners should call in about and help us out with. We're going to do wins and fails of the year.
Ooh.
So like what are the Denver wins? Who are the biggest winners? What did they do? What were the biggest success stories of the year? And then what were the biggest fails? Who are the biggest losers? Who failed the biggest, the hardest, the fastest?
The Broncos?
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
That's a good one. That was a huge face plant this year for the Broncos.
Yeah, we're not looking too good.
Broncos and the air pollution people.
We'll talk about it next week.
Doing bad.
Well, Peyton, Bree, Megan, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks guys so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, thanks, guys. This is great.
Let's all get some Dairy Queen.
No thanks.
And that's all for the week here on CityCast Denver. Our producers this week were me, Paul Caroli, and Aaron O'Toole. Peyton Garcia writes our morning newsletter, Hey Denver. Bree Davies is our host. Our music is by Los Mocochetes, with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. If you haven't already, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, follow us on Twitter at CityCast Denver, and tell Kroger CEO Rodney McMullen about us next time you see him. You can sign up for that daily newsletter, Hey Denver, by texting Denver to 66866 and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. And remember, if you are running for mayor, we will play your voicemail if you tell us what your plans for the camping ban are and why. See you all next week.